page 299. The world of the Bhaktin, Bhaktin, in South Indian traditions, the body and beyond, Uma Chakravarti. The problem of the relationship of woman to God is an important aspect of understanding gender relations in any society. There is much cultural variation even within India. The need for historical investigation into its past is thus that much greater. The rich tradition of bhakti is particularly significant for women, both for variations and commonalities in its social and religious implications. Here, the dominant Brahminical ritual world is attempted to be turned upside down. Boundaries operating in the social world collapse, and the shackles imposed by a rigidly hierarchical social order are stretched to provide breathing space for some men and women. Footnote 1, para. The descent movements of the 6th century BC had virtually accompanied the construction of a caste, class, and gender stratified social order. The question of women's place in the search for salvation had surfaced among all religious currents, but especially in the descent movements, and attempts to resolve it had led to a plurality of situations. Buddhism, for example, was forced to concede, somewhere grudgingly, space to women and provide an institutional means for them to pursue their religious goals. Footnote 2. However, this accommodation had been made within the social, that is, non-grihastha world of the Buddhist Sangha. In one sense, bhakti was a continuation of this tradition, but it also represented a significant departure because it collapsed the distinction between the world of the grihastha and the world of the bhikshu/sannyasi. This was another reason why the experience of bhakti was vastly different from that of Buddhism. Para. Our focus here will be on the experience of the bhaktins in the widest sense in South India. We will draw in particular on the accounts of Antal, Avvaiyar, Avvaiyar, Karaikal Ammaiyar, and Akka Mahadevi to consider the nature of the bhakti experience and the space it provided to women to expand both their own selfhood and conventional gender and social relations. Page 300. Finally, we will consider the manner in which the female body shaped and impinged upon the identity of the bhaktins. Our text here will be the hagiographies of the women and the songs they created and passed on to us. Para. The earliest of the 4 women saints in South India that we will focus on is Avvaiyar. The society in which she lived is identified in South Indian history as the Chankam period, during which time a number of major poets flourished. In the closing years of the Chankam age, 7 warrior chiefs are reputed to have provided sustained patronage to the poverty-stricken Tamil poets and earned their gratitude, as expressed in many of the compositions of the poets. The political hierarchy in the Tamil region indicates 2 levels: the hill chieftains and the 3 great Tamil kings. The Tamil poets of the Chankam age are linked to the second tier, the hill chieftains who were hostile to the three great Tamil kings. Footnote 3. Some of the poets, including Avvaiyar, seem to have thrown in their lot with the smaller chieftains against the mightier kings. Para. There is a fairly well-established tradition of many Avvaiyars associated with Tamil literature, and it appears that the name may be a generic term used for any elderly wise woman. Footnote 4. The earliest of Avvais, Avvais, lived in the Chankam age, and the legend associated with her birth is important, so it is worth recounting in some detail. Footnote 5. Avvai was the daughter of an outcast woman called Ati, ATI, and a Brahmana named Pakavan. According to a popular legend, when Pakavan was still a baby, his father discovered through the child's horoscope that he would someday marry a low-caste girl. Horrified at such a prospect, the father left home on a pilgrimage. The mother then tended carefully to the child's education, and the boy grew up to be a fine specimen of a learned Brahmana. At this stage, Pakavan discovered why his father had left his mother, and equally horrified at the prediction, he too left home on a pilgrimage. Para. On his way, he came across a low-caste girl. Angry at the girl's intrusion into the place where he was cooking, he threw a stone at the girl's head. The crying girl hastily scurried off to her adopted father, a Brahmana who lived in the neighboring village, and Pakavan proceeded on his pilgrimage. By the time he returned, the low-caste girl had grown into a beautiful and unrecognizable woman. Pakavan was quite willing to accept the Brahmana father's proposal, but as the marriage ritual was being completed, Pakavan realized that the girl he was tying himself to was the low-caste girl he had encountered earlier. Page 301. He then tried to escape from the marriage, but was persuaded to accept the woman, which he did on the condition that she abandon each child born to them wherever they might be in their travels. The woman reluctantly consented, and the first of 7 such abandoned children was Avvaiyar. 3 boys and 3 other girls were similarly abandoned. As each one was abandoned, the mother wailed, "Oh, who will take care of my babe?" unquote. And in each case, she received a wise and encouraging answer from the infant concerned. These sayings are supposed to have survived as the, quote, songs of the 7, unquote, stop. Para. Each of the 7 abandoned children was adopted by a different family. Avvai was adopted by a family of Panors, whose traditional vocation was to sing, especially in praise of the king. The next child, a girl, was brought up by a washerman's family, and she too, like Avvai, distinguished herself through her poetry on ethics and was deified on her death under the title of Mariammai. Next to be abandoned was Atiyaman, the eldest of the boys. He is associated with Avvai's life. Atiyaman was known for his patronage of the Tamil poets. The 4th child, a girl named Urvasi, was brought up by a family of toddy dealers and distinguished herself as a dancer and poetess. The fifth child was Kapilar, who was brought up in a Brahmana family. When he was 7, he had to be invested with the sacred thread, but the assembled Brahmanas refused to do so on the ground that Kapilar was not born a Brahmana. The boy then recited a verse in which he defined superiority in case as being determined by good deeds. The shamed Brahmanas then proceeded with the investiture. The sixth child, a girl, was named Valli and was brought up by a family of basket makers. The last child was a boy who also came to be the most reputed of the 7 children. He was brought up in a Velala household, but as the relatives objected to his presence, he was actually reared by a low-caste family. This child, named Tiruvalluvar, composed the famous Tirukkaral. Footnote 6. When Avvaiyar was still a small child, she startled her parents by completing half-finished compositions, thus exhibiting a wisdom far beyond her years. When Avvai grew up to womanhood, a marriage was proposed. Avvai was dismayed, and her girlhood friends expressed the inevitable dilemma of a woman who was immersed in her devotion to her God. How could one serve the Lord and a husband at the same time? Avvaya resolved the dilemma of young womanhood by seeking a drastic solution in order to avoid marriage. Page 302. She sought an end to her youth and beauty. In her own words, she stated the problem to Ganesha thus, quote, "Should I marry and experience family life? Question mark. Why did you give me this charm and beauty? Question mark. Only good things should emanate from my lips. Grant me the boon of birthlessness, ... unquote, footnote 7. Immediately, Avvai was transformed into an old woman and was thus released from the requirement of marriage. As she adopted the life of a wandering teacher, she told the assembled people that she was not meant for family life. Just as her adopted mother had looked after her in her orphan state, she too must do the same for her people. Avvai now began to wend her way up and down the land, traveling all alone even at night, going far beyond the limitations of a minstrel expected to sing praises of the king, scattering the gems of her aged wisdom as she went about. One of her special tides was, quote, "She who sang for a meal," unquote, stop. Her forte was education, particularly of the young. In the course of her career as a woman of wisdom, Avvai is said to have composed 13 books, including one on materia medica, one panegyric on a wealthy merchant, and one on metaphysics. Footnote 8. The remaining 10 works are collections of ethical sayings. One of them, the Attichutti, Atticutti, Attichutti, contains 108 maxims which at the same time teach the Tamil alphabet. Footnote 9. From her own statements, it is clear that Avvai, famed for her wisdom, placed learning above everything else. Invoking Vinayaka's blessings, Avvai asked for proficiency in the threefold classical Tamil. Footnote 10. In consonance with her mixed background, Avvai, along with other poets, was critical of rigid social divisions. Accordingly, she wrote, quote, "There are on earth only two castes, those who give alms, ALMS, are noble, those who do not give, are low." Stop, unquote, footnote 11. Para. The attachment to form also received her attention. On one occasion, a temple priest rebuked her for stretching her feet towards the idol. Avvai's sharp response was to ask in which direction God was not present so that she might stretch her feet in that direction. Footnote 12. Para. She is critical too of greed when she states with simple directness, quote, "A measure of rice per day and 4 cubits of cloth are all that man needs, semicolon. But how his thoughts run in crores, stop. Like a mud pot, the life of such blinded men is one misery till death." Stop, unquote, footnote 12. Page 303. Her attitude to women, however, was conventional, as indicated in this statement. Quote, "Moderation in food is an ornament to women," unquote, footnote 14. Or, quote, "The home is truly blessed in all, where wife obeys her duty's call," unquote, footnote 15. Or, quote, "Womanhood by chastity becomes admirable," unquote, stop, footnote 16. Good wives who are loyal to their husbands have great powers because they cause the rains to fall on Avvai's view. In Avvai's view, the ethics of a household is clearly based on the good wife as its focal point. Para. The striking feature of Avvai's own life, however, was her association with kings, chieftains, and secular power generally. Her skills in this area were considerable, since she was deputed by her patron, the chieftain Atiyaman, as an emissary to the court of Tontaiman of Kanchipuram. According to tradition, she once addressed the 3 crowned heads of the Tamil country and advised them to do good. Stop, footnote 17. The good, protective, heroic king was a very important theme in her poetry, as is evident in one of her poems on Atiyaman, bracket, Anchi, bracket closes, colon. Quote, ... Anchi, man of many spears, is at battle, ... He has the strength to protect and care, though the times are troubled, stop. Bless him, stop. His works, stop, footnote. (18) Similarly, Avvai says, quote, "My king, when rich, freely gives food away. When poor, he messes with his men. He is the head of the family of the poor. Yet great is he with his sharp-pointed spear. Footnote 19. Unquote. After the death of her patron Atyaman, bracket, who, comma, according to tradition, comma, was also her brother, bracket closes, comma, Avvaiyar wandered all over the Tamil region. She herself had received the Nelli fruit which gave her immortality from Atyaman, who had procured it for her from an inaccessible place. Footnote 20. The chieftains vied with each other to hold her down to their kingdoms, but she refused to be bound thus, comma, saying, colon, quote, I hated youth and accepted old age. Stop. Is it right to bind me in one place? Question mark, unquote. Footnote 21, para. In the course of her travels, she met her brother Tiruvalluvar and helped him gain access to the prestigious Chankam or gathering of poets at Madurai, page 304. She lived the life of a wandering minstrel for 240 years and then voluntarily retired from the earth. On one of her last sojourns, Murugan appeared to her as a young boy and made her aware that despite her deep knowledge, her learning was only a drop in the ocean and that she had much yet to learn. She then met her Mahaprasthana Gamana and ascended to heaven. Para. Tradition associated with the life of Avvai's brother Tiruvalluvar is significant as a counterpoint to Avvai's life. While the two shared a common parentage and expressed themselves essentially as poets of an ethical code, their careers were vastly different. Reared by a low-caste family, Tiruvalluvar took to weaving when he grew up and was a firm advocate of the virtues of a domestic life, especially if one could find a virtuous wife. Footnote 22. Luckily for him, he found an ideal wife in Vasuki, who was the embodiment of all that was required to help a man in the householder's life. Footnote 23. To ensure a perfect arrangement, Tiruvalluvar put Vasuki through a test which, in legend, is a common test for brides. He promised to marry her if she could take sand and make it into rice for him. Vasuki took the sand, feeling sure that was Valluvar, Valluvar, ordained must be possible. I repeat, Vasuki took the sand, feeling sure that what Valluvar ordained must be possible. And having power with the gods, succeeded in bringing him the rice he wanted. Having passed the test, she became his faithful and obedient spouse. Unquote. Footnote 24. Para. To those who were confused about the relative merits of the domestic life vis-a-vis the life of an ascetic, Tiruvalluvar provided a demonstration of which was superior. One such inquirer watched a display of a series of instances in which Vasuki provided evidence of unflinching devotion and unquestioning obedience. The inquirer then understood that, quote, where such a wife is found, domestic life is the best. Stop. Where such a wife is not, comma, the life of an ascetic is to be preferred. Stop unquote. Footnote 25. Para. In such an idealized domestic setting, Tiruvalluvar composed an ethical treatise for the good of the world, focusing on virtue, wealth, and pleasure. Persuaded by his friends to present the treatise at the Chankam of learned poets, he left Vasuki at home and wended his way to Madurai. On the way, he met Avvai, who accompanied him. Footnote 26. Together, he, Avvai, and another young poet humbled the conceit of established poets. It was here that Tiruvalluvar presented the Tirukural, a work considered the perfect code of morals for the universal man as well as for the state. It propounds an ideal monarchy with ideal householders and true ascetics. Page 305. The householder leads a virtuous life, doing his duty to every living being and to his ancestors. His wife, the glory of his home, is modest, frugal, adores her husband, and is the guardian of his house's fame. Footnote 27, para. Having established his work, he returned to the adulation of his townsmen and resumed his homely life of court, exemplary virtue unquote, with Vasuki. The virtuous Vasuki had, however, silently carried within her, from the day of her marriage, a question which revealed itself in her eyes as she lay on her deathbed. Tiruvalluvar noticed her expression, sought the unspoken question, and then gave her the explanation for an action she had performed for her husband every day in her life without knowing why it was to be done. He had asked her on their wedding day always to give him a needle and a glass of water with each meal. This was so that he could use the needle to pick up a grain of rice if it fell and drink the water before the meal so as to eat in moderation. Satisfied with the answer, she confidently went to heaven. That night, Valluvar recorded his recognition of Vasuki, quote, "Sweet as my daily food, mark of exclamation. Oh, full of love, mark of exclamation. Oh, wife. Obedient even to my word, mark of exclamation. Chafing my feet, comma. The last to sleep, comma. The first to rise, comma. O gentle one, mark of exclamation. By night henceforth, comma, what slumbers to mine eyes, question mark, footnote 29, para. He then buried her, quote, sacred, unquote, body in the sitting posture, a practice normally associated with ascetics. Tiruvalluvar survived his wife for many years and continued to perform many glorious deeds before he too passed away. Para. The biographies of Avvai and Tiruvalluvar provide an interesting contrast in that Avvai cannot reconcile a wifely role with that of a wandering teacher, cannot reconcile devotion to a cause with service to the husband. In Tiruvalluvar's case, there is no need to reconcile anything. Indeed, his stable, sagely existence is predicated upon the unqualified devotion he is given by his wife. There is also a contrast between Avvai and Vasuki, between the woman who has moral authority outside the home and the woman whose moral virtue within the home releases the creative potential of the greatest sage of his time. Para. Text continued in next file. Page 305. In the second place of Tamil literature, I repeat, para. In the second phase of Tamil literature, circa AD 600, an important contribution was made by Karaikal Animaiyar, a devotee of Shiva. Karaikal Ammaiyar is not known outside the Tamil area. Page 306. But within it, she has left an enduring imprint, some of which is visible even today in the many images her life inspired. She composed a long poem of 100 verses titled Arputa. Arputa Taruvantati, expressing her devotion to Shiva, a work which is considered capable of moving people to tears. Footnote 20. Footnote 29, para. She was born, according to the Periyapuranam, in the famous seaport town of Karaikal, inhabited by wealthy merchants. One such merchant named Tanatan performed great austerities and was blessed with a beautiful daughter whom he named Punitavati, meaning the Immaculate One. From her earliest days, she was deeply devoted to Shiva, the study of religious literature, and the service of bhaktas. When Punitavati reached marriageable age, she was married to a young man from Nagapattinam, but since her parents were reluctant to be parted from her, the husband was persuaded to reside in Karaikal. Footnote 30. Para. Early in the marriage, Punitavati's absolute devotion to her God was tested when she gave away one of the two choice mangoes sent home by her husband for his own consumption to an aged bhakta, since she had not yet cooked the midday meal. At lunchtime, the husband, having eaten the tasty mango served to him, asked for the second one also. Punitavati was unable to reveal what had become of it and went in as if to fetch it. Her distressed mind automatically sought the feet of Shiva, who came to her rescue, and Punitavati found a ripe mango in her hand. She served this to her husband, but he noted at once its unique sweetness and sought an explanation from Punitavati, who revealed the truth to him. Unconvinced by her explanation, the husband mockingly proceeded to test her powers. As Punitavati provided him with a demonstration by producing yet another mango, he became terrified of her awesome display. Footnote 31. Obviously, a mere housewife could not possess such powers in his view. Para. Overawed and deeply perturbed by his wife's supernatural powers and convinced that she was no, quote, ordinary, unquote, woman, he left home without informing anyone at the earliest opportunity to seek an ordinary existence elsewhere. He remarried and named his daughter after his former wife. Punitavati's family at last discovered his whereabouts and took her to him, but the husband fell at her feet and proclaimed that she was no ordinary woman. Immediately, Punitavati prayed to Shiva, telling him that her husband needed nothing more from her, and since his words had released her, she now no longer needed her beauty of form. Page 307. She besought the Lord to transform her into a demoness who could thenceforth, quote, stand by God in prayer, unquote, like the ghouls who worship at Shiva's dancing feet in the burning grounds. Footnote 32. Shiva fulfilled her wish, and the beautiful Punitavati was metamorphosed into the emaciated figure thenceforth known as Karaikal Ammaiyar. Para. As she moved about in her new form, the world fled from her presence. No longer encumbered by the weight of her flesh and beauty of form, she immediately made a trip to Mount Kailasha, the abode of Shiva and Uma. Hesitating to defile holy ground with her feet, she is said to have walked on her hands into the presence of the Lord, a strange scene depicted on many stone reliefs. Footnote 33. Even Uma, who had been through great austerities to gain Shiva as a husband, marveled at Karaikal Ammaiyar's devotion. Shiva welcomed her with love and understanding, and she responded delightedly, addressing him as Appa, father. She then begged Shiva for an end to his praises and to rebirth, and also requested that in her present birth she might sing his praises and find her sole refuge at his feet. The Lord directed her to go to Tiruvalankam, the sacred banyan forest, where she could see his Tandava. After many days of waiting, the Lord appeared to her there and danced the Tandava with her under his feet while her songs resounded in the forest. Footnote 34, para. A selection of her verses in the Arputa Tiruvantati, composed at Alankatu, provides an insight into the essence of her devotion and the range of her emotions. Colon quote. Ever since I learned to lisp after my birth, my love to thee has increased, comma. I reached thy feet, comma. Oh, exclamation mark, God of gods, with throat of shining blue, when wilt thou rid me of my pain? Pain, question mark. Even to 7 births am I his slave. Ever my love is fixed on him, not else, To him whose coral braids are covered with buds, and to none else shall my service be due, stop. My father owned so sweet to me, my Lord, I repeat, my father owned so sweet to me, my Lord, him I treasured in my heart always, stop. Him as my Lord I owned, and owning him, my heart rejoiced. Stop, unquote, 35. Visualizing the beautiful dancing of Shiva at Alankatu Karaikal, Ammayar sang, Cologne, page 308. Quote, the ground is damp with liquid marrow. Skeletal ghouls with sunken eyes jostle an elbow. Jostle and elbow, looking furtively around them, extinguishing the fires. They eat half-burnt corpses. There, in that menacing forest, holding fire in his hands, dances our beautiful Lord. Stop, unquote, footnote 36. Para, identifying herself with the ghouls who inhabit the cremation grounds, she signs herself Karaikal P-E-Y, bracket, ghoul, Ghoul, bracket closes, colon, quote. Sagging hearses, sagging breasts, and swollen veins, protruding eyes, bare white teeth, stop. Skeletal legs and knobbly knees, Knobby, Knees, has this female P-E-Y, P in italics. She lingers, weeps and wails, and wanders aimless in the forest, dash. There, holding fire, but cool of limbs, with matted hair in all directions. Shiva dances his cosmic dance. This forest, this sacred Alankatu, is the home of our Supreme Lord. Stop, unquote, 37. Para. Karaikal Ammayar's Alankatu poems are not set to music, nor are they chanted in temples. Footnote 38. They were too strange and forbidding for inclusion in the normal world of worship. But her unique experience has left a tremendous impact upon the average devotee, who could not but be fascinated by the awesomeness of a devotion that led her to reject the beauty of the female body and the external environment, both of which were unnecessary to her in feeling the presence of the Lord. Para. Antal's origins were mysterious, as she appeared in the Tulasi bushes and was brought up by a bachelor saint named Periyalvar, who was a priest in a temple. When she grew up, she refused to be married to anyone but Vishnu, for whom she was already expressing her love in an unorthodox manner, which was perfectly acceptable to the Lord. When she was 16, her father escorted her to the Sri Rangam temple, page 309, where Antal was married to Vishnu and then immediately mysteriously absorbed into a stone replica of her beloved. Para. Antal composed two poetic works, one the famous Tiruppavai, representing her girlhood sentiments for Krishna. This work has been incorporated into Vaishnava temple rituals. The Nachiyar Tirumoli, on the other hand, is a less known work where Antal expresses her feelings for the Lord in more explicitly erotic terms. Footnote 39. This work has now been marginalized except for a section that describes Antal's dream of a marriage with the Lord, which has been incorporated in the marriage rituals of the Sri Vaishnavites. Antal has come to be regarded as Bhudevi, consort of Vishnu. Footnote 40. Para. Akka Mahadevi was a great devotee of Shiva and was initiated into worship at a very early age by an unknown guru. This, for Akka Mahadevi, was the real moment of her birth. When she grew up into a beautiful young woman, the chieftain of the land named Kausika saw her and fell in love with her. He was an unbeliever, but he managed to become her husband, partly through a show of force. The use of coercion and the attempt to subjugate her will appear to have been a continuing feature of this unsatisfactory marriage, since Akka Mahadevi set conditions on Kaushika's relations with her. Kaushika comes through in the narrative as the archetype of a sensual man. Matters came to a head when Akka Mahadevi threatened to leave him if he forced himself on her, and actually walked out on him when he persisted in violating her. Footnote 41. Para. Akka Mahadevi's future life was consistent with her spirited rejection of existing marital relations. Throwing away her clothing, she braved unwanted male attention as she began her religious wanderings until she finally found kindred spirits amongst a company of saints. It was these saints who ultimately helped her consummate her love for Shiva by arranging her real marriage, a marriage of a choice, to him. She died in her early 20s, becoming one with Shiva at Sri Shaila. Footnote 42. Para. A reading of the lives and of the poetry of the South Indian Bhaktins reveals a difference between the experience of Bhakta for the Bhakta and the Bhaktin in the arena of marriage. An important dimension of the Bhakti movement, as we had stated earlier, had been the breakdown of the householder and renouncer divide that had been an inherent aspect of the earlier decent movement against Brahmanism. In the Bhakti movement, there was no contradiction in the pursuit of Bhakti and the life of the Grihastha. In practice, however, page 310. The collapsing of such a boundary operated only in the case of men. For women, the dichotomy persisted, and the tension between marriage and devotion to a personal god was never successfully resolved. All the Bhaktins negotiated the institution of marriage in some way or the other. We have no equivalent among the Bhaktins of the normal male Bhakta of someone like Tiruvalluvar, for example, who was a great devotee and a good householder at the same time. Para. Thus, all Bhaktins protest marriage to a mortal man. Some then end up marrying the god of their choice. In an extreme situation, a Bhaktin like Antal might even threaten self-extinction if forced into marriage with a mortal man. Para. The problem posed by marriage in the case of women saints is articulated very early in the South Indian tradition by the Sakhis of Avvaiyar. Quote, "Will you serve your husband or will you serve your Lord?" Question mark, unquote. Ask the girls when there is talk of marriage for Avvai. AVVAI, Avvai. The possibility of opting out of marriage as a conscious choice made by a young woman does not seem to be available to Avvai because she seeks a drastic solution to marriage and is turned into an old woman. Released thus, Avvai wanders up and down the land much like the bhikshu of the Buddhist Sangha and proceeds to do what she really wants, which is to educate the people. This is something that the male bhaktas can do even in their grihastha situation. Para. Outside of marriage, and especially as an old woman, Avvai gains a moral authority, which is normally the preserve of men. The place that she wrenches for herself is not just one where she can create beautiful songs, recording her devotion to God, but includes the right to teach, to formulate a code of ethics, to assume a position of authority over men. Para. A crucial aspect of the transformed role Avvai gains outside of marriage is that her world is not circumscribed by religious ends. Avvai retains a hold on the lay world, on the very world of householders from which she had opted out. Her attention is thus focused equally on the inner world of the home, on the everyday relations between people, and finally even on political power. With the last, Avvai transcends the conventional limitations on the bhikshu of having to withdraw from the familial, social, and political arena, a limitation which was central to Buddhism. That this was perceived as an unusual role, more so in the case of a woman, is evident from the Chola king's rebuke to Abhai when she intervenes on behalf of her patron, one of the chieftains of the Tamil region. The Chola king says to her, page 311, dismissively, colon quote, "Stay out, comma, this is politics," stop unquote. Avvai's response is significant. She says she acts as she does to ensure justice and righteousness in the land. Footnote 43. In this, Avvai is like the Buddha who came to realize that the moral order could be sustained only through the transformation of politics. Thus, in Avvai's view, a withdrawal from the state would imply a withdrawal from righteousness. Avvai is a woman of the world, while at the same time she is outside it. Para. Avvai's place and concerns with the secular political world may have derived from her Panar background. The conventional role of a bard, B-A-R-D, was that of singing the praises of the king. Avvai invests the conventional role with a moral authority, transforming the conventional function of a panegyrist. But clearly, what Avvai achieves, a moral space in the secular world, would have been impossible in the case of a wife and was near impossible in the case of an unmarried, not yet aged woman. As an older woman, Avvai nevertheless succeeds in wresting that space. She then becomes a prototype, and so we have the tradition of a series of Avvaiyars in the Tamil region. Text continued in next file. Page 311, para. Others like Akkam. Para. Others like Akka Mahadevi and Karaikal Ammayar also have to contend with marriage. They have to handle situations where there is a conflict between unqualified devotion to God and the single-minded service to the husband which is expected. Thus, Karaikal Ammayar is put into a state of conflict when she gives away the husband's mango to a devotee of the Lord. While she is rescued from the situation through unusual devotion to the Lord, the fact that she is no ordinary woman in the perception of her husband puts her outside the framework of marriage as far as he is concerned. This resolves the conflict of loyalties for Karaikal Ammayar, but it is significant that it was not she who forced the resolution. It was forced upon her by her husband. Once released, she was free to give unrestrained expression to her devotion to Shiva. It is noteworthy that for Karaikal Ammayar, Shiva is, quote, father, unquote, semicolon. She sees herself as his slave, but he is not, quote, husband, unquote, or lover, as he is to some other bhaktins. Para. In Akka Mahadevi's case too, there were acute problems which led her to leave her husband and proceed to devote herself to Shiva. She articulates the basic tension between being a wife and a devotee. Colon quote, husband inside, comma, lover outside, stop. I can't manage them both, stop. Page 312. This world and that other, comma, cannot manage them both. Stop, unquote, footnote 44. Before the conflict gets resolved, the love Akka Mahadevi feels for God is, quote, adulterous, unquote. The husband and in-laws function as impediments, but Mahadevi gives them all the slip and then speaks of, quote, cuckolding, cuckolding, unquote, the husband with hara. Immediately afterwards, she speaks of making the Lord himself her husband. Footnote 45. Para, the relationship with the mortal husband is utterly unsatisfactory. Akka cannot go near other men, quote, because they are thorn under smooth leaf, semicolon. One cannot go near them or trust them, or, single quote, speak confidences, single quote, unquote, to them. Footnote 46. Only the Lord, who has no death, decay, nor form, can be her true husband. The mortal husbands she dismisses. Quote, take these husbands who die, decay, comma, and feed them as your kitchen fires. Mark of exclamation. Footnote 47. She says with stunning contempt, para, once she has dispensed with the earthly husband, Akkama Devi is free to roam and seek the real husband. In the meanwhile, hunger and thirst make no impact because the Lord is with her. Colon, quote, for hunger, there is the town's rice in the begging bowl, stop. For thirst, comma, there are tanks, comma, streams, comma, wells, stop. For sleep, there are the ruins of temples, stop. For soul's company, I have you, comma, O Lord, white as jasmine. Stop, unquote. Footnote 48. Para. Antal resolves the problem of marriage by refusing marriage to a mortal and insisting on marrying the Lord himself. There is thus no conflict in this aspect of her life. She renounces nothing, neither beauty nor wifehood. Everything in her life leads her inexorably to the grand finale, marriage to her chosen Lord. Her father, himself a bhakta, forces no earthly husband upon her. Instead, he travels with her to Sri Rangam, page 313, where she is married to Ranganatha. Unlike the other three women, Antal does not negotiate marriage. She chooses it in a direct resolution of the issue. Para. The manner in which the question of marriage is handled by each woman saint is linked to the deeper question of the sexuality of these women and their explicit attitude to the female body. Footnote 49. Avvaiyar, Karaikal, Ammaiyar, Antal and Akka Mahadevi confront their sexuality in different ways. Avvaiyar, for example, denies her sexuality by going past the sexually active years into an ascetic kind of situation. With the energy thus released, she wanders about and is accepted by the social order within which she can remain and which she can work with, posing no danger to others and protected from them by her old woman's form. Para. Karaikal Ammaiyar also transforms her sexuality into an awesome power. Her husband and other men are terrified of her. In her new form, which denies her sexuality, she is inviolate. No man will come anywhere near her. She is now the feminine ascetic par excellence. Para. The whole symbolism in Karaikal Ammaiyar's case suggests the release of creative energy. Karaikal Ammaiyar is cast in a Kali-like mold. She inhabits the world of the pretas in the cremation ground. Ultimately, her salvation lies at the feet of Shiva. But while her form is awesome, like Kali, her bhakti makes her different. It contains her female energies. Thus, while in one version of the Kali legend, Kali dances with Shiva under her feet, here in a reversal of the situation, Shiva dances the Tandava with Karaikalammayar under his dancing feet. Para. For Antal and Akkamadevi, their bodies and their sexuality are no embarrassment or impediment to them. The body is the instrument, the site, through which their devotion is expressed. Their relationship with the Lord is set within the framework of bridal mysticism. Antal's devotion quickens her body. She awakens early to the beauty of her body through her single-minded meditation upon the Lord. She says in one poem, quote, "My swelling breasts I dedicated to the Lord who holds the sea-fragrant conch, ... unquote, footnote 50. Longing for the Lord so that her love may be consummated, she revels in her body, seeking the pleasure of fulfillment." Page 314. Quote, "Only if he will come to stay with me for one day, if he will enter me so as to leave the mark of his saffron paste upon my breasts," unquote, footnote 51. The lack of fulfillment itself is expressed again in bodily terms. The unsatiated body and the torment it brings leads to the threat of drastic remedies, quote, "I pine and languish, but he cares not whether I live or die, dash. If I see that thief of Govardhana, that looting robber, that plunderer, I shall pluck out by their roots these breasts that have known no gain. I shall take them and fling them at his chest, putting out the hell fire which burns within me." Unquote, footnote 52. Para. It is significant that despite its uninhibited expression, Antal's sexuality poses no threat at all at any point in the legends that have built up around her. Her unfulfilled longings are undeniably frank and expressive, but they are neatly containable within the framework of an impending marriage. The sexuality of Antal is the sexuality of a young girl who will become a bride, the wife of the Lord. It is thus set in the mode of legitimate love, and it is this which makes it possible to incorporate Antal's hymn in the rituals of women. Thus, in the month of Markali, the Tiruppavai is sung only by women. Young girls in particular sing it to get good husbands and make happy marriages. Antal's experience of love is socially contained within the sexuality of the wife. Para. Akkamadevi's sexuality both shares with and is in complete contrast to that of Antal. Like Antal, she does not deny the female body. She confronts it with a directness which is without parallel. But in confronting it the way she does, she forces the world around her also to do so. Her brutal frankness sees no shame in stripping off conventional notions of modesty. Page 315. There is nothing to hide, says Akka. Quote, you can confiscate money in hand. Can you confiscate the body's glory? Unquote, dot, dot, dot. I repeat, the body's glory, unquote, sign, dot, 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 to the shameless girl, dot, dot, dot. Where's the need for cover and jewel? Question mark, unquote, footnote 53. And again, quote, dot, 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 O Shiva, when shall I crush you on my pitcher breasts? O Lord, white as jasmine, when do I join you, stripped of body's shame and heart's modesty? Question mark, footnote 54. Para. Akka Devi's experience is like Antal's, informed by bridal mysticism. But in Akka Devi's case, the legitimacy of the experience is irrelevant. The Lord need not be the husband, merely the adulterous lover. Her handling of her own sexuality is much more open, like that of the Devadasi rather than of the wife. Quote, he bartered my heart, looted my flesh, claimed as tribute my pleasure, took over all of me, dot. I am the woman of love for my Lord, white as jasmine. Stop, unquote, footnote 56. Para. One may discern an interesting variation in the structure of experiences of Avvai, Karaikalammayar, Antal and Akka Devi in terms of the manner in which the question of marriage features in the narrative, the manner in which they handle their sexuality and in their relationship to God. Page 316. Avvai jumps past the stage of marriage, becomes a mother to the people. Her sexuality is transformed into a mother force, and the God himself appears to her in her last moments as a child. Para. Karaikalammayar is released from marriage, transformed into a preta, subdues her sexuality, and relates to God as a daughter or a slave. Bracket opens, God is both father and master. Bracket closes, stop. For Antal, a beautiful woman full of the unfulfilled longings of a young girl, consummation lies in marriage, and the Lord is her husband. Akka Devi, on the other hand, is a mature woman who is unwilling to be content in an earthly marriage. Unashamed of her body, the Lord is her lover, even an adulterous lover. Para. In our review of 4 women saints, we find 2 ways in which the female body and sexuality are treated. One way is to deny sexuality and transcend it as Avvai and Karaikalammayar do. This also resolves the threat that female sexuality poses, especially for a non-grihastha woman who may wander widely in pursuit of her goal with the same freedom that the male bhaktas have. Para. Another way is to accept the sexuality of woman but channelize it away from mortal men and direct it to the chosen God as lover or husband. In this situation, the female body itself is used to express the bhaktin's devotion. In such a situation, there still remains the threat represented by the body of the bhaktin in terms of her interaction with the wider world. In the story of Antal, she is taken to Sri Rangam by her father, married to the Lord's image, and disappears into it, so no one can violate her. Para. Only Mahadevi confronts the crucial problem directly. As someone who has not denied her sexuality but at the same time seeks the liberation that other bhaktas have, she adopts a radical measure and wanders about naked. Mahadevi is the very opposite of Antal. In a sense, she flaunts her sexuality and defies an onslaught upon it. Her decision to strip off all clothing is a refusal to be circumscribed by the notion of the vulnerability of the female body, a refusal to make compromises because of it. In that sense, she conquers the threat it poses and is the only bhaktin to do so. Only Akka Mahadevi works within the female body, not around it as others do. It is possible that she achieves this because she, among our 4 women saints, had found that in the home one could be violated. What then is unique about the violation that the outer world represents? Thus, Akka Mahadevi refused to allow the female body to be an impediment in the search for salvation. Text continued in next file. Page 317. Para. Explaining the experience of bhakti requires unraveling its complex strands, and one must guard against homogenizing it into a neat, unified tradition. There is a strong possibility of simplifying bhakti, especially in terms of its social content. Para. Thus, its conventional association with marginalized groups such as women and the low castes needs to be viewed with a measure of caution, especially since there is evidence of much Brahmana participation, especially in South India. And yet it would not be wrong to see in bhakti elements which move away from a highly intellectualized religion and in doing so make religious experience more accessible and more popular. Para. Also, even while a noticeable degree of Brahmana participation may be traced in South India, especially in Tamil Vaishnavism, this in itself was a regional resistance to a more Sanskritic penetration of religious forms. Pre-Sanskritic Tamil cults were extended to create, for the first time, a devotional cult which personalized religious experience, eliminated mediators like the priest, and made for a direct relationship with God. Para. The space thus created provided the leverage women required to insert themselves into the cult of bhakti. Denied a voice in normal social and political relations, in bhakti poetry they left behind their only record. It is significant that religious poetry is the only place where women's speech has been permitted to survive and has gone on to become the heritage of both men and women. But in evaluating the collective heritage of bhakti, we need to ask what kind of room did the bhakti tradition actually provide for women in the world of religion as well as in everyday social relevance. Relations, everyday social relations. To answer this, we need to focus on three aspects in particular: the relationship of the bhaktin to God, the relationship of the bhaktin to her own body, and the relationship of the bhaktin to other men and women. We have not been able to take up all these questions very explicitly or with the depth required, but this exploration may be treated as a small beginning. Para. The narratives of the Bhaktins' lives and their poetry indicate that all these women saw God as male, but in an idealized version of the conventional relationship of woman to man. The emotion of God was not confined within a patriarchal structure. God was sometimes an equal, as in the case of Antal, and sometimes the Bhaktin was subservient, as in the case of Karaikal Ammayar. In any case, the object of devotion was not a distant authoritative God, but a close, page 318. Companions, someone you could quote, speak confidences, unquote, too. In Bhakti, women indicated the possibility of an alternative model of gender relations. Though through Bhakti, women also retrieved some of the ground they had lost in the Brahminical ritual order, because of pollution taboos, for example, bracket closes, and in the Brahminical social order because of their circumscribed role within the household. In Bhakti, they found the space to break through both these barriers. It enabled women to recite the Lord's name, quote, even during menstruation, and it enabled women to deny the bonds of marriage itself, unquote. The Bhaktin used her devotion as an armor and God as her supporter in her resistance against the priest and the husband. The escape from an earthly marriage in the case of all four of our Bhaktins also gave them an escape from the social relations of being female. With no other ties, the Bhaktins could be completely immersed in their devotion. Further, the Bhaktins escaped widowhood with its attendant misery. The desire of the Bhaktin for a marriage with God might even be considered a search for the permanent status of a Sumangali, the only woman who was treated as being whole for ritual purposes. Sumangali here should not be seen merely as a married woman, but as a completed selfhood denied to widows. Thus, the Bhaktins circumvented the everyday social relations required of women and transformed the everyday gender relations with which they must otherwise live, as indicated in Akka Mahadevi's statement that once that one could not, quote, speak confidences, unquote, to men. This transformation was possible only in the religious arena. Akkamadevi's experiences are inconceivable in any other context except in relation to the Lord. Para. Here another question that arises is how far bhakti dissolved the gender lines. It is clear that some divisions did break down. Men frequently used the feminine mode in their poetry, saw themselves as feminine in relation to God, and so gave up a part of their maleness. But in the narrative of their lives and even in the distinctive nature of their poetry, the femaleness of the bhaktin remained. The explicit use of the language of the body is a feature of the bhaktin's poetry. Para. Even in envisaging the union with the Lord, there is a difference between the bhakta and the bhaktin. Men achieve the state at a symbolic, metaphoric level. The union is a metaphysical one. In the case of the bhaktins, it is envisaged much more explicitly. Antal and Akkamadevi disappear into the image of the Lord at the time of marriage to him. In sum, SUM, then, while the bhaktins break the social rules obtaining for women, they do not give up the female identity which is constructed by the female body. Page 319. Para. Of our four bhaktins, the two who transcend not only socially defined feminine roles, bracket marriage, bracket closes, but also female sexuality by becoming transformed into old women, are able to move around in society with impunity for substantial periods of time. But the two, bracket Mahadevi and Antal, bracket closes, who work within the framework of physical femaleness vividly expressed in their poetry, end their social existence soon after they opt out of the feminine role. Antal at 16, Mahadevi in her early 20s. Para. The collapse of the Grihastha and Samnyasi divide makes for a problem which is more acute for the bhaktins. In the earlier monastic tradition, there was an organized community of renouncers into which women could go. In the bhakti tradition, there is no organized community of bhaktas, since the men most often led grihastha lives. There is at best a loose network of devotees which cannot provide much more than minimal support to the bhaktins. Para. In attempting to recover the ethos of bhakti, we will need to go beyond what has survived of it in a purged, sanitized and routinized version of the original experience. It might then be possible to capture the totality of the experience of bhakti in the lives of the bhaktins. Notes. I am deeply indebted to Ruth Vanetta, without whom this paper would never have got started at all. I am also very grateful to Vidya Rao for general support while the paper was being written, and especially for refining some of the arguments. 1. An important aspect of social movements in India has been seeking solutions to social problems in the religious sphere. Buddhism was the first major expression of such a venture, and bhakti may be considered a continuation of such a tradition. 2. Uma Chakravarti, The Social Dimensions of Early Buddhism, Delhi, 1987. 3. A. L. Basham, The Wonder That Was India, Delhi, 1967, page 464. 4. J. M. Soma Sundaram, A History of Tamil Literature, Annamalai Nagar, 1968, page 93. 5. The account of Avvaiyar and Tiruvalluvar's lives has been put together from J. M. Somasundaram's A History of Tamil Literature, pages 64 to 71, 93 to 7, and E. J. Robinson's Tamil Wisdom, Madras, 1957, pages Roman 19 to LVI, 51 to 67, 105 to 7, page 320. 6. References to low-caste and Brahmana interaction in the context of marriage, and the repeated references to stories of foundlings, and particularly to women whose origins are mysterious but who are adopted by Brahmana fathers, seem to suggest a mythicization of the process by which Brahmana penetration into the Tamil region and its interaction with a pre-Brahmanic Tamil culture is recorded. The legends depict the process of the absorption of a Sanskritic culture. 7. S. S. Vasan's film on Avvaiyar, 1953. 8. E. J. Robinson, Tamil Wisdom, page 61. 9. Some of these maxims are Pidhi sayings such as, quote, do not withhold what you can afford to give, unquote, quote, scorn not numbers and letters, unquote, quote, learn with young, unquote, quote, whatever you do, do well, unquote, quote, leave for others, unquote, quote, associate with the wise, unquote, quote, live in harmony with your fellow beings, unquote, stop. In similar works, a wise advice ranges over a code of behavior, for example, quote, talk humbly even to the lowly, unquote, quote, mother and father are the visible gods, unquote, quote, no sacred verse is holier than one's father's words, unquote, quote, no temple is holier than one's mother, unquote, quote, better than wealth on hand is learning, unquote, J. M. Somasundaram Pillai, 2000 Years of Tamil Literature, Madras, 1959, pp. 260-3. 10. Ibid, page 263. 11. Ibid. 12. A History of Tamil Literature, page 99. 13. Ibid, page 264. 14. Ibid, page 262. 15. Ibid, page 266. 16. Ibid, page 264. 17. A History of Tamil Literature, page 95. 18. A.K. Ramanujan, Poems of Love and War, OUP, Delhi, 1985, pages 129 to 30. 19. A History of Tamil Literature, page 95. 20. Ibid, page 94. 21. S. S. Vasan, Avvaiyar, film, 1953. 22. History of Tamil Literature, page 64. 23. Ibid, page 67. 24. Ibid, page 68. 25. Ibid. 26. E. J. Robinson, Tamil Wisdom, page Roman 33. 27. 2000 Years of Tamil Literature, page 244. 28. A History of Tamil Literature, page 69. 29. 2000 Years of Tamil Literature, page 288. 30. Ibid, page 287. 31. Ibid, page 288. 32. Ibid. 33. Vidya Dahija, Deheggia, Dehija. I repeat, Vidya Deheggia, Deheggia. Slaves of the Lord, Delhi 1988, page 130. 34. 2000 Years of Tamil Literature, page 290. 35. Ibid, page 291. Page 321. 36. Tiruvalankattu, Tirupatikan, Tirumarai, Roman 11, 1971, pp. 6f, cited in Slaves of the Lord, pages 130 to 1. 37. Ibid, page 2, Ibid, page 118. 38. Slaves of the Land, page 132. 39. Ibid, page 121. See also Friedhelm, Friedhelm, Hardy, Viraha Bhakti, Delhi 1983, pages 414 to 29. 40. Slaves of the Lord, page 128. 41. A.K. Ramanujan, Speaking of Shiva, Harmansworth, 1985, pages 111 to 14. 42. Speaking of Shiva, page 114. 43. Quote, should innocent girls suffer under the machinations of emperors, ? There must be justice and righteousness in the land. Unquote. Avai in S.S. Vasan's film, 1953. 44. Speaking of Shiva, page 127. 45. Ibid, page 141. 46. Ibid, page 125. 47. Ibid, page 134. 48. Ibid, page 132. 49. The discussion in this section owes much to Vidya Rao, without whom it would not be the same. 50. Slaves of the Lord, page 121. 51. Ibid, page 124. 52. Ibid, page 126. The metaphor of tearing off the breast is resonant of Kannaki's action when she is denied justice. There it is linked with the awesome power of the chaste wife, : here, it is the awesome passion of a woman denied of consummation. Stop. No quotation mark. 53. Speaking of Shiva, page 129. 54. Ibid, page 136. 55. Ibid, page 125. The text ends here. Page 322 blank. Page 323, bibliography. Continued in next file. Page 323, bibliography. Bracket opens, note : The bibliography has been organized along broad sectional heads corresponding with the themes of the essays included in the volume. However, given the interdisciplinary nature of women's studies, the reader may find readings listed in one section are useful in terms of other sub-themes as well. The bibliography includes 1. Complete references to the material included in the volume. 2. References to other books/articles on women in early India connected with the themes under consideration. 3. References to cross-cultural and/or interdisciplinary books/articles on related themes. Stop bracket closes. Section 1. Altekar A.S. 1934. Education in Ancient India. Banaras, Nandakishore and Brothers. Altekar A.S. 1958. State and Government in Ancient India. Delhi, Motilal Banarsi Das. Altekar A.S. 1987-1991. The Position of Women in Hindu Civilization from Prehistoric Times to the Present Day. Delhi, Motilal Banarsi Das. Reprint 3rd edition, 1978. 1st edition, 1938. Ancher, Leonie, J, Susan Fischler, and Maria Wike, W-I-K-E. Editors. 1994 Women in Ancient Societies, An Illusion of the Night, Hampshire, Macmillan. Barrett, Michelle, and Annie Phillip, editors, 1992. Destabilizing Theory, Contemporary Feminist Debates, Cambridge Polity Press. Bhattacharjee Sukumari, 1994, Women and Society in Ancient India. Calcutta, Bushumati Corporation Limited. Cameron Averill and Amélie Court, editors, 1983. Images of Women in Antiquity, London, Croom, Croom, Helm. Chakraborty Uma, 1981. The Rise of Buddhism as Experienced by Women. Manushi, 8:6-10. Chakraborty Uma, 1988. Beyond the Altekarian Paradigm towards a new understanding of gender relations in early Indian history. Social Scientist, 16,8:44-52. Chakraborty Uma, 1993, Conceptualizing Brahminical Patriarchy in Early India, page 324. Gender, Caste, Class and State, Economic and Political Weekly, 28:579-85. Chakraborty Uma and Kumkum Roy, 1988, In Search of Our Past, a review of the limitations and possibilities of the historiography of women in early India. Economic and Political Weekly, 22 Cologne, WS2-10. Chakraborty Uma and Kumkum Roy, 1996. The Family in Ancient India, Ideal and Reality, Social Change, 26 Cologne, 26-33. Conkey, Conkey, Margaret W., in collaboration with Sarah H. Williams, 1991. Original narratives. The Political Economy of Gender in Michaela D. Leonardo, edited. Gender at the Crescendo. I repeat, Gender at the Crossroads of Knowledge, Feminist Anthropology, in the postmodern era. Berkeley, University of California Press, pages 102 to 39. Cornell R.W., 1987, Gender and Power, Society, the Person, and Sexual Politics, Cambridge Polity Press. Cornwall, Andrea, and Nancy Lindisfarne, Lindisfarne, 1994, Dislocating Masculinity, Comparative Ethnographies, London Routledge. Crosby, Christine, 1991, The Ends of History, Victorian and quote, The Woman Question, unquote, New York Routledge. Das R.M., 1962, Women in Manu and His Seven Commentaries, Varanasi Kanchana Publications. Diamond, Irene, and Lisa Kapler, 1990, Frontiers of the Imagination, Women, History and Nature, Journal of Women's History 1:160-80. Gulati Saroj, 1985, Women and Society, North India in the 11th and 12th centuries, Delhi, Chanakya Publications. Horner, I.B., 1975, Women Under Primitive Buddhism, Delhi, Motilal Banarsi Das, first edition, 1930. Jain Pratibha and Rajni Mahar, editors, 1996, Women Images, Jaipur Rawat Publications. Jaiswal Suvira, 1981, Women in Early India, Problems and Perspectives, Proceedings of the Indian History Congress, 42:54-60. Kandi Yodi, Kandi, Kandiyoti, Kandi Yoti Dennis, 1988, From Empire to Nation State, Transformation of the Women Question in Turkey, in S.J. Kleinberg edited, Retrieving Women's History, Changing Perceptions of the Role of Women in Politics and Society, Oxford, Berg Publishers Limited, pages 219-40. Kelly, Kelly, June, 1984, Women, History and Theory, Chicago, University of Chicago Press. Kumar Neeta, edited, 1994, Women as Subjects, South Asian Histories, New Delhi, Stree. Law, Bimola Choran, 1981, Women in Buddhist Literature, Varanasi Indological Book House, first edition, 1927. Lerner Jerda, 1979, The Majority Finds Its Past, New York, Oxford University Press. Lerner Jerda, 1986, The Creation of Patriarchy, New York, Oxford University Press, page 325. Manjushri, 1990, The Position of Women in the Yagmavalkya Sriti, New Delhi, Prachi Publishers and Distributors, Private Limited. Moore, Henrietta L., 1988, Feminism and Anthropology, New York, Monthly Review Press. Newman, Louis M., 1991, Critical Theory and the History of Women, What's at Stake in Deconstructing Women's History, Journal of Women's History 2:58-68. Paul Diana Y., with contributions by Francis Wilson, forward by I.B. Horner. 1985, Women in Buddhism, Images of the Feminine in the Mahayana Tradition, Berkeley, University of California Press, 2nd edition. Pomeroy, Sarah B., edited, 1991, Women's History, Ancient History, Chapel Hill, University of North Carolina Press. Reiter, R-E-I-T-E-R, R., edited, 1975, Towards an Anthropology of Women, New York Monthly Review Press. Richman Paula, 1992, Gender and Persuasion, Portrayal of Beauty, Anguish, and Nurturance in an Account of a Tamil Nun, in Jose Ignacio Cabezon, edited, Buddhism, Sexuality and Gender, Delhi Sri Satguru Publications, pages 111 to 36. Sangari Kumkum, 1993, Consent, Agency and the Rhetorics of Incitement, Economic and Political Weekly, 28 colon, 867 to 82. Sangari Kumkum and Sudesh Vaid, edited, 1989. Recasting Women, Essays in Colonial History, New Delhi, Kali for Women. Smith, S-C-H-M-I-T-T, Pantel, Pauline, edited, 1992. From Ancient Goddess to Christian Saints, Volume 1, A History of Women in the West, Belknap, B-E-L-K-N-A-P, Harvard University Press. Scott Joan Wallach, 1987, Gender and the Politics of History, New York, Columbia University Press. Sharma Tripathi, 1987, Women in Ancient India from circa AD 320 to circa AD 1200, New Delhi, SS Publications. Shastri Shakuntala Rao, 1952, Women in the Vedic Age, Bombay, Bhaban's Book University. Shaw Miranda, 1994. Passionate Enlightenment, Women in Tantric Buddhism, Princeton University Press. Sponberg, Alan, 1992, Attitudes Toward Women and the Feminine in Early Buddhism, in Jose Ignacio Cabezon, edited, Buddhism, Sexuality and Gender, Delhi Sri Satguru Publications, pages 3 to 36. 2. Acker Joan, A-C-K-E-R, Acker Joan, 1988, Class, Gender and Relations of Distribution, Science 13 colon 473 to 97. Adams Alice, 1995, Maternal Bonds, Recent Literature on Mothering, Science 20 colon 414 to 27. Page 326. Agarwal Bina, 1994, A Field of One's Own, Gender and Land Rights in South Asia, Cambridge University Press. Balasubramaniam C., 1992, The Status of Women in Tamil Nadu During the Sangam Age, Madras, Narumar Larp, Patipakan, first edition, 1976. Bhattacharya N.N., 1988, Property Rights of Women in Ancient India, in L.K. Tripathi edited, Position and Status of Women in Ancient India, Varanasi, Banaras Hindu University, pages 62 to 71. Kaplan, CAPLN, Patricia and Janet M. Bujra, editors, 1978, Women United, Women Divided, Cross-Cultural Perspectives and Female Solidarity. On Female Solidarity, London, Tavistock Publications Limited. Chakravarti Uma, 1983, The Myth of the Golden Age of Equality, Women Slaves in Ancient India, Manushi 3:8-15. Clark, CLARK, Alice W., edited, 1993, Gender and Political Economy, Explorations of South Asian Systems, Delhi, Oxford University Press. Kuntz, CWNTZ, Stefani and Peter Henderson, editors. 1986, Women's Work, Men's Property, The Origin of Gender and Class, London, Verso. Delphi, DELPHY, Christine, 1984, Close to Home, A Materialist Analysis of Women's Oppression, London, Hutchinson. Gero, Gero, Joan and Margaret Conkey, editors, 1990, Engendering Archaeology, Women and Prehistory, Oxford, Basil Blackwell. Gupta Chitrolekha, 1988, Rural-Urban Dichotomy in the Concept and Status of Women, in L.K. Tripathi edited, Position and Status of Women in Ancient India, Varanasi, Banaras Hindu University, pages 188-96. Hartman Heidi, 1981, The Family as Locus of Gender, Class and Political Struggle, The Example of Housework, Science 6:366-94. Hartstock, Nancy C.M., 1983, Money, Sex and Power, Towards a Feminist Historical Materialism, New York, Longman. Hennessy, Rosemary, 1993, Materialist Feminism and the Politics of Discourse, New York, Routledge. Jain Devaki and Nirmala Banerjee, editors. 1985, The Tyranny of the Household, Investigative Essays on Women's Work, Delhi, Shakti Books. Jeffrey, Patricia, Roger Jeffrey and Andrew Lyon, LYON. 1989, Labour Pains and Labour Power, London and New Delhi, Z Books and Manohar. Kuhn, Kuhn, Annette and Anne-Marie Wolfe, WOLPE, editors. 1978, Feminism and Materialism, Women and Modes of Production, London, Routledge and Kagan-Paul. Lebra Joyce, Joy Paulson and Jana Everett, editors. 1984, Women and Work in India, Continuity and Change, New Delhi, Promila. Leibowitz, Leela, 1986, In the Beginning, The Origins of the Sexual Division of Labor and the Development of the First Human Societies, in Kuntz and Henderson, editors, Women's Work, Men's Property, The Origin of Gender and Class, London, Verso, pages 43-75. Page 327, McCormack, Carol, P., and Marilyn Strathern, editors, 1980, Nature, Culture and Gender, Cambridge University Press. Metro Manoshi, 1989 to 90. Women in Santhal Society, Women as Property, Women and Property. Shammo Shokti 4 and 5, 213 to 17. Mukund Kanakalatha, 1992. Turmeric Land Women's Property Rights in Tamil Society since Early Medieval Times, Economic and Political Weekly. Economic and Political Weekly 27, WS 226. Narang Bhim Sign, 1990. Concept of Stri Dhana in Ancient India. Delhi, Porimal Publications. Oakley, Oakley, Ann, 1984. The Captured Womb, A History of the Medical Care of Pregnant Women, Oxford, Basil Blackwell. O'Brien, Mary, 1981. The Politics of Reproduction, Boston, Routledge and Kagan Paul. Parashar, Aloka and Usha Naik, 1986. Temple Girls of Medieval Karnataka, Indian Economic and Social History Review, 23, 63 to 91. Ramaswamy Vijaya, 1989. Aspects of Women and Work in Early South India, Indian Economic and Social History Review, 26, 81 to 99. Roy Kumkum, 1994a. The Emergence of Monarchy in North India as reflected in the Brahminical tradition, circa 8th to 4th centuries BC, New Delhi, Oxford University Press. Roy Kumkum, 1994b. Defining the household, some aspects of prescription and practice in early India. Social Scientist, 248 to 9, 3 to 18. Sayers, Janet, Mary Evans and Nanneke Redcliffe, editors, 1987, Angels Revisited, New Feminist Essays, London, Tavistock. Shah K.K., 1996, Legal Rights of Women to Landed Wealth, a case study of the Chandela Queens, in Kiran Power edited, Women in Indian History, Social, Economic, Political and Cultural Perspectives, Patiala, Vision and Venture, pages 68 to 94. Sharma R.S., 1983, Perspectives in Social and Economic History of Early India, New Delhi, Munshi Ram Manohar Lal. Sharma Ursula, 1980, Women, Work and Property in North-West India, London, Tavistock. Singh, A.K., 1990, Devadasi System in Ancient India, a study of temple dancing girls of South India, Delhi, H.K. Publishers and Distributors. Stanley Autumn, 1981, Daughters of Isis, Daughters of Demeter, When Women Sewed and Ripped, Women's Studies International Quarterly, 4, 289 to 304. Strathern, Maryland, 1988, The Gender of the Gift, Problems with Women and Problems with Society in Melanesia, Berkeley, University of California Press. Tyagi A.K., 1994, Women Workers in Ancient India, New Delhi, Radha Publications. Vishnoi Savita, 1987, The Economic Status of Women in Ancient India, Meerut, Kusumanjali Prakashan, page 328. Whitehead, Anne, 1984. Men and Women, Kinship and Property, Some General Issues. In Rennie Hershon, HRSHON edited, Women and Property, Women as Property. London, Croom Helm, pages 176 to 92. Continued in next file. Page 328. Women in Early Indian Societies, Bibliography 3. Appadurai Arjun, Frank J. Kurum, Margaret A. Mills, editors, 1994. Gender, Genre, and Power in South Asian Expressive Traditions, Delhi, Motilal Banarsi Das. Apte Usha M., 1978. The Sacrament of Marriage in Hindu Society, From the Vedic Period to the Dharmashastras, Delhi, Ajanta Publications. Ardener, Ardener, Shirley, edited, 1992. Persons and Powers of Women in Diverse Cultures. Essays in commemoration of Audrey I. Richards, Phillips, Phyllis, Phyllis Kaveri, Kaberry, Kaberi, and Barbara E. Ward, New York, Berg. Banerjee Shumanto, 1993, The Court, Beshan Court, and The Court, Babuan Court, Cologne. The Prostitute and Her Chronicle in 19th Century Bengal, Economic and Political Weekly, 28 Cologne, 2461-72. Basu N.K. and S.N. Sinha, 1929. History of Prostitution in India, Calcutta, Bengal Social Hygiene Association. Bennett Lynn, 1983. Dangerous Wives and Sacred Sisters, The Social and Symbolic Roles of High Caste Women in Nepal. New York, Columbia University Press. Bhattacharjee Shukumari, 1967, Prostitution in Ancient India. Social Scientist, 15 32-61. Bhattacharjee Shukumari, Motherhood in Ancient India, Economic and Political Weekly, 25 WS 50-7. Bhattacharya N.N., 1975. History of Indian Erotic Literature, New Delhi, Munshiram Manohar Lal. Bhattacharya N.N., 1980. Indian Puberty Rights. Calcutta, Indian Studies, Past and Present. Berguer, Berguire, Andre, Christian Klappisch Zuber, Martin Segelin, and Francois Zonabird, editors, 1996. Distant Worlds, Ancient Worlds, Volume 1, History of the Family, Cambridge, Polity Press. Chakravarti Uma, 1983, The Development of the Sita Myth, a case study of women in myth and literature, Samya Shakti 1, colon 68 to 75. Chakravarti Uma 1993, Women, Men and Beasts, the Jatakas as Popular Tradition, Studies in History 9, colon 43 to 70. Chatterjee Shastri Hirambo 1972, Studies in the Social Background of the Forms of Marriage in Ancient India, Calcutta, Sanskrit Pustak Bhandar. Chaudhuri Prem 1994, The Veiled Woman, The Veiled, V-E-I-L-E-D, Women, Shifting Gender Equations in Rural Haryana, 1880 to 1990, Delhi, Oxford University Press. Collier, C-O-L-L-I-E-R, Jen Fishburne and Sylvia Janko Yanagisako, editors, 1987, Gender and Kinship, Essays Towards a Unified Analysis, Stanford University Press. Page 329. Das Ram Mohan, 1993, Women in Manu's Philosophy, Jalandhar ABS Publications. Demand Nancy, 1994, Birth, Death and Motherhood in Classical Greece. Baltimore and London, Johns Hopkins University Press. Desai Devangana, 1985, Erotic Sculpture of India, a Sociocultural Study. Delhi, Tata McGraw-Hill. Dikshit Ratnamai Devi, 1964, Women in Sanskrit Dramas, Delhi, Meherchand Lakshman Das. Dubey, Leela, 1988, On the Construction of Gender, Hindu Girls in Patrilineal India, Economic and Political Weekly, 23, colon 11 to 19. Dubey, D-U-B-Y, Georges, 1978. Medieval Marriage, Two Models from 12th Century France, Baltimore, Johns Hopkins University Press. Ehrenfels, E-H-R-E-N-F-E-L-S, V-R, 1973. Matrilineal Social System in India, in Cultural Department. In Cultural Department of the Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany. Edited, German Scholars on India, Volume 1, Varanasi, Chaukhamba Sanskrit Series Office, pages 50 to 68. Erndl, E-R-N-D-L, Kathleen M., 1992, colon. The Mutilation of Shurpanakha in Paula Richman, edited, Many Ramayanas, the diversity of a narrative tradition in South Asia. Delhi, Oxford University Press, pages 67 to 88. Foucault, F-O-U-C-A-U-L-T, Michel, 1978. An Introduction, Volume 1, The History of Sexuality, New York, Pantheon. Foucault, Michel, 1985, The Use of Pleasure, Volume 2, The History of Sexuality, New York Pantheon Books. Foucault Michel, 1986, The Care of the Self. Volume 3, The History of Sexuality, New York, Vintage Books. Fox Robin, 1993, Reproduction and Succession, Studies in Anthropology, Law and Society, New Brunswick, Transaction Publishers. Goldman, Robert P., 1982, Matricide, Renunciation and Compensation in the Legends of Two Warrior Heroes of the Sanskrit Epics, Indologica Taurinensia, 10:117-31. Goldman, Robert P., 1993, Transsexualism, Gender and Anxiety in Traditional India, Journal of the American Oriental Society, 113:374-401. Gonda J., 1975, Reflections on the Arsha and Asura Forms of Marriage, Selected Studies, edited 4, Volume 4, Leiden, E. J. Brill, pp. 171-85. Gonda J., 1975, Ascetics and Courtesans, Selected Studies, Volume 4, Leiden, E. J. Brill, pp. 223-47. Good Anthony, 1991, The Female Bridegroom, A Comparative Study of Life Crisis Rituals in South India and Sri Lanka, Oxford, Clarendon Press. Goody Jack, 1990, The Oriental, the Ancient and the Primitive, Systems of Marriage and the Family in the Pre-Industrial Societies of Eurasia, Cambridge, Cambridge University Press. Grottanelli, Cristiano, 1982, The King's Grace and the Helpless Woman, Cologne, page 330. A Comparative Study of the Stories of Ruth Cherila Sita, History of Religions, 22:1-24. Gurukal R., 1989, Forms of Production and Forces of Change in Ancient Tamil Society, Studies in History, 15:159-75. Hart 3, George L., 1973, Woman and the Sacred in Ancient Tamil Nadu, Journal of Asian Studies, 32:233-50. Hawley John Stratton, edited, 1994. Sati, the Blessing and the Curse, The Burning of Wives in India, New York, Oxford University Press. Hopkins E. W., 1972, The Position of the Ruling Caste in Ancient India, Varanasi, Bharat Bharati. Hussain Shahnara, 1985, The Social Life of Women in Early Medieval Bengal, Dhaka, Asiatic Society of Bangladesh. Jamison Stephanie W., 1996, Sacrificed Wife, Cologne, Sacrificer's Wife, Cologne, Women, Ritual and Hospitality in Ancient India, New York, Oxford University Press. Jhanji Rekha, 1996, Women in the Mahabharata in Kiran Power, editor, Women in Indian History, Social, Economic, Political and Cultural Perspectives, Patiala, Vision and Venture. Joadar B., 1984, Prostitution in Historical and Modern Perspectives, New Delhi, Inter-India Publications. Kapadia Karin, 1995, Shiva and Her Sisters, Gender, Caste and Class in Rural South India, Boulder, Cologne, West View Press. Carson Boom Story, Saskia C. 1987. Nitya Sumangali, Delhi, Motilal Banarsi Das. Leslie I.J. 1986. Sri Swabhava, The Inherent Nature of Women in N.J. Allen et al. eds. Oxford University Papers on India, Volume 1, Part 1, Delhi, Oxford University Press, pp. 28-55. Leslie I.J. 1989. The Perfect Wife, the Orthodox Hindu woman according to the Stri Dharma Paddhati of Triambaka Yajavan. Delhi, Oxford University Press. Leslie I.J. ed. 1992. Roles and Rituals for Hindu Women, Delhi, Motilal Banarsi Das. Leslie I.J. ed. 1996. Menstruation Myths in Julia Leslie ed. Myth and Myth Making, Richmond, Curzon Press, pp. 87-105. Levine Nancy E. 1988. The Dynamics of Polyandry, Kinship, Domesticity and Population on the Tibetan Border, Chicago, University of Chicago Press. McCormack, Carol A. 1980. Nature, Culture and Gender, A Critique, in McCormack and Marilyn Strahan, Strathern, Strathern, editors, Nature, Culture and Gender, Cambridge, Cambridge University Press, pages 1-24. Margleen Frederick Apfel, 1985, Wives of the God King, Cologne, Rituals of the Devadasis of Puri, Delhi, Oxford University Press. Mathur Veena, 1985, Role and Position of Women in the Social, Cultural and Political Life of Kashmir, 7th to 16th century AD, Jammu, Doron Publications. Page 331. Moti Chandro, 1973, The World of Courtesans, Delhi, Vikash Publishing House, Private Limited. Muir Edward and Guido, Guido, Ruggiero, editors, 1990. Sex and Gender in Historical Perspective, Baltimore and London, Johns Hopkins University Press. Nagaraja Rao, C.K., 1978. Chalukyan Queens in M.S. Nagaraja Rao E.D., The Chalukyan of Badami, Bangalore, The Mythic Society, pages 159-69. Natarajan Kanchana, 1995. Distinctionism of Sankhya, Cologne, A Clue to Understanding Gender Constructions / Conflicts in the Brahminical Tradition. Paper presented at the Seminar on Spinning Knowledge, Feminist Theories, Methodologies and Methods, New Delhi, United States Educational Foundation in India. O'Flaherty, Wendy Doniger, 1981, Sexual Metaphors and Animal Symbols in Indian Mythology, Delhi, Motilal Banarsi Das. Oldenburg Veena Talwar, 1991, Lifestyle as Resistance, The Case of the Courtesans of Lucknow. In Douglas Haynes and Gyan Prakash, editors, Contesting Power, Resistance and Everyday Social Relations in South Asia. Delhi, Oxford University Press, pages 23 to 61. Ortner, Sherry B., 1978, The Virgin and the State, Feminist Studies 4:19 to 35. Ortner, Sherry B., and H. Whitehead, editors, 1981, Sexual Meanings, The Cultural Construction of Gender and Sexuality, Cambridge, Cambridge University Press. Ortner, Altors, OSTOR, Oster, Echoes, AKOS, Lina Fruzzetti and Steve Barnett, editors, 1982, Concepts of Person, Kinship, Caste and Marriage in India, Cambridge, Cambridge University Press. Otis Leah L., 1987, Prostitution in Medieval Society, The History of an Urban Institution in Langenellen, LANGUDIN. LANGUEDOC, 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 Chicago, University of Chicago. Palriwala Rajani and Carla Risso, RISSEEUW, editors, 1996, Shifting Circles of Support, Contextualizing Gender and Kinship in South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa, New Delhi, Sage. Raha, Manish Kumar, edited, 1987. Polyandry in India, Demographic, Economic, Social, Religious, and Psychological Concomitants of Plural Marriages in Women, Delhi, Gyan Publishing House. Rajan V.S., 1986, Ananku, a notion semantically reduced to signify female sacred power, Journal of the American Oriental Society, 106:257-72. Rao Shastri, Shakuntala, 1970, Women in the Social Laws, 2nd edition, Bombay, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. Reynolds Holly Baker, 1991, The Auspicious Married Woman, in Susan Wedley, edited, Powers of Tamil Women, New Delhi, Manohar, pp. 36-60. Roy Kumkum, 1988, Women and Men Donors at Sanchi, a study of the inscriptional evidence, in L.K. Tripathi, ED, Position and Status of Women in Ancient India, Volume 1, Varanasi, Banaras, Hindu University, pages 209-23. Page 332. Roy Kumkum, 1994, Marriage as Communication and Exploration of Norms and Narratives in Early India, Studies in History 10:183-98. Roy Kumkum, 1996A, Unraveling the Kama Sutra, Indian Journal of Gender Studies 3:155-70. Roy Kumkum, 1996b, Justice in the Jatakas, Social Scientist 275 to 7 colon 23 to 40. Roy Kumkum, forthcoming, Women's Place / Women's Space, New Delhi, Oxford University Press. Sanger, William W., 1986. History of Prostitution, Its Extent, Causes and Effects Throughout the World, New Delhi, Inter-India Publications. Shorkar S.C., 1928. Same Aspects of the Earliest Social History of India, London, Oxford University Press. Snyder, David M. and Kathleen Goff, editors. 1972. Matrilineal Kinship, Allahabad, A. H. Wheeler and Company. Schooler, Schuler, Sydney, Ruth, 1987. The Other Side of Polyandry, Property, Stratification and Non-Marriage in the Nepal Himalayan, Boulder. Westview Press. Shah Shalini, 1995. The Making of Womanhood, Gender Relations in the Mahabharata, New Delhi, Manohar. Shantakumari S.L., 1983. Women in the Days of Chalukyas of Kalyana, in M.S. Nagaraja Rao E.D., The Chalukyas of Kalyana. Bangalore, The Mythic Society, pages 165 to 70. Sharma Arvind E.D., 1988, Sati, Historical and Phenomenological Essays, Delhi, Motilal Banarsi Das. Shastri A.M., 1975, India as Seen in the Kutta Ninatam of Damodara Gupta, Delhi, Motilal Banarsi Das. Shulman David, 1992, Fire and Flood, The Testing of Sita in Kampans, Ira Naval Taram. Ira Mavataram. In Paula Richmond E.D., Many Ramayanas, Delhi, Oxford University Press, pages 67 to 8. Singh Sarvadaman, 1978, Polyandry in Ancient India, New Delhi, Vikash Publishing House, Private Limited. Shivathambi K., 1974, Early South Indian Society and Economy, The Tinai Concept, Social Scientist 29, colon 20 to 37. Sohonen, Sohnen hyphen, Thieme, Renata, 1996. The Ahalya Story Through the Ages in Julia Leslie E.D., Myth and Myth-Making, Richmond, Carson Press, pages 39 to 62. Sternbach L., 1951, Forms of Marriage in Ancient India and Their Development, Bharatiya Vidya, 12, colon 62 to 138. Sternbach L., 1955, Legal Position of Prostitutes According to Kautilya's Arthashastra, Journal of the American Oriental Society, 71, colon 25 to 60. Trotman, T.R., 1981, Dravidian Kinship, Cambridge, Cambridge University Press. Van Baal, Baal, J., 1975, Reciprocity and the Position of Women, Anthropological Papers, Amsterdam, Van Gorkum, Gorcum. 330, page 333. Wedley Susan E.D., 1991, Powers of Tamil Women, New Delhi, Manohar. Wakowitz Judith, 1980, Prostitution in Victorian Society, Women Class and the State, Cambridge University Press. Weeks, Jeffrey, 1981, Sex, Politics and Society, The Regulation of Sexuality Since 1800, London and New York, Longman. Yanagasikao, Sibria and Carol Delaney, editors, 1995, Naturalizing Power, Essays in Feminist Cultural Analysis, New York, Routledge. 4. Atri Shubhangana, 1987, Archetypal Mother, A Systemic Approach to Harappan Religion, Pune, Ravish Publishers. Beane, B-E-A-N-E, Wendell Charles, 1977, Myth, Cult and Symbols in Shakto Hinduism, a study of the Indian mother goddess Leiden Brill. Bhattacharya, N.N., 1977, The Indian Mother Goddess, New Delhi, Manohar. Bhattacharya, N.N., 1996, History of the Shakta Religion, New Delhi, Munshiram Manohar Lal, 2nd edition. Brown, Cheever, Mackenzie, 1974, God as Mother, A Feminine Theology in India, Hartford, V.T., Claude Stark and Company. Bynum, B-Y-N-U-M, Caroline Walker, 1986, Introduction, The Complexity of Symbols. In Bynum, Stephen Harrell and Paula Richman, eds, Gender and Religion on the Complexity of Symbols, Boston, Beacon Press, pages 1 to 20. Same authors, 1991, Fragmentation and Redemption. I repeat, Bynum, Caroline Walker, 1991, Fragmentation and Redemption, Essays on Gender and the Human Body in Medieval Religion, New York, Zone Books. Chakravarti Uma, 1989, The World of the Bhakti in South Indian Traditions, The Body and Beyond, Manushi, 50-2, 18-29. Chaudhuri J.B., 1956, The Position of Women in Vedic Ritual, Calcutta, the author. Coburn, C-O-B-U-R-N, Thomas B., 1984, Devi-Mahatmya, The Crystallization of the Goddess Tradition, Delhi, Motilal Banarsi Das. Coburn, Thomas B., 1991, Encountering the Goddess, a translation of the Devi Mahatmya and a study of its interpretation. New York, State University of New York Press. Dange Sadashiv A., 1979, Sexual Symbolism from the Vedic Ritual, Delhi, Ajanta Publishers. Das H. V., 1981, Tantrism, a study of the Yogini cult, New Delhi, Sterling. Das Veena, 1985, The Goddess and the Demon, an analysis of the Devi Mahatmya, Manushi, 5:28-32. Dasgupta Shashi Bhushan, 1977, Aspects of Indian Religious Thought, Calcutta, Pharma KLM. Dehejiya Vidya, 1988, Slaves of the Lord, The Path of the Tamil Saints, New Delhi, Munshiram Manohar Lal. Dehejiya Vidya, 1990, Antal and Her Path of Love, Poems of a Woman Saint from South India, Albany, State University of New York Press. Page 334. Desai Neera, 1984, Women and the Bhakti Movement, Samya Shakti, 1:92-9. Dial, D-I-E-H-L, C.G., 1979. Matan Ma as Sadhana in Bhakti, Notes on the Vaishnava poetess Antal of Sri Bhilliputtur, Indologica Taurinaceae, 7:219 to 23. Ganesh Kamala, 1990, The Mother Who Is Not a Mother, In Search of the Great Indian Goddess, Economic and Political Weekly, 25, WS 58 to 64. Gatwood Lean E, 1985, Devi and the Spouse Goddess, Women, Sexuality and Marriage Within India, New Delhi, Manohar. Gudrian, Teun, Teun, and Sanjukta Gupta, 1981. Hindu Tantric and Shakto Literature, bracket, A History of Indian Literature, J. Gonda, ed., Volume 2, FASC 2, bracket closes, Wiesbaden, Otto Harrisowitz, Holly John Stratton, and Donna Marie Wolf, editors, 1984. The Divine Concert, Radha and the Goddess of India, Delhi, Motilal Banarsi Das. Jaini Padmanav S., 1992. Gender and Salvation, Jaina Debates on the Spiritual Liberation of Women, Delhi, Munshiram Manohar Lal. Kinsley David, 1975. The Sacred and the Flute, Krishna and Kali, Berkeley, University of California Press. Kinsley David, 1987. Hindu Goddess, Visions of the Divine Feminine in the Hindu Religious Tradition, Delhi, Motilal Banarsi Das. Kosambi D.D., 1962. Myth and Reality, Bombay Popular Prakashan. Cramrish Stella, 1975. The Indian Great Goddess, History of Religions, 14:234-65. Kumar Pushpendra, 1974. Shakti Cult in Ancient India, with special reference to the Puranic literature. Varanasi, Bharatiya Publishing House. Kumar Pushpendra, 1992. Tara, the Supreme Goddess, Delhi, Bharatiya Vidya Prakashan. Lal Shyam Kishore, 1980. Female Divinities in Hindu Mythology and Ritual, Pune, University of Pune Press. Lyle, L.A.Y.L.E., P.G., 1973. Studies in the Devi Bhagavata, Bombay Popular Prakashan. Leonard Jeddah, 1993. The Creation of Feminist Consciousness from the Middle Ages to 18th Century. From the Middle Ages to 1870. New York, Oxford University Press. Manushi, 1986. Quote, I drank the wine of my own verse, unquote. The life and work of Lal Ded, Kashmiri poet and mystic, Manushi 6:17-22. Mukta Parita, 1994. Upholding the Common Life, the Community of Mirabai, Delhi, Oxford University Press. Mullatti Leela, 1989. The Bhakti Movement and the Status of Women, a case study of Veerashaivism, Delhi, Abhinav Publications. Patton Laurie L., 1996. The Fate of the Female Rai, The Fate of the Female Rishi, Portraits of Lopamudra. In Julia Leslie Eddy, Myth and Myth-Making, Richmond, Carson Press, pages 21 to 38. Ramaswamy Vijaya, 1996. Divinity and Deviance, Women in Virashaivism, Delhi, Oxford University Press. Rice Davids, CAF, 1909. Therigatha, Psalms of the Sisters, London, Pali Text Society, page 335. Rosen Elizabeth S., 1980. Buddhist Architecture and Lay Patronage at Nagarjuna Konda in A. Dalla Piccola Idi, the Stupa, its religious, historical and architectural significance. Wiesbaden, Franz Steiner, Verlag, pages 122-6. Roy Kumkum, 1985. Legitimation and the Brahminical tradition, the Upanayana and the Brahmacharya in the Dharma Sutras, in Proceedings of the India History Congress, pages 134-46. Sangari Kumkum, 1990. Mirabai and the Spiritual Economy of Bhakti, Economic and Political Weekly, 25 colon 1464-75. Smid, SCHMIDT, HF, 1987. Some Women's Rights, RITES, and RIGHTS in the Veda. Pune, Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute. Sharma RK, 1978. The Temple of the Chaunastha Yogin at Bheraghai, Delhi. Agam Kala Prakashan. Singh Harihar, 1988. Position and status of women as reflected from their patronage to temple architecture. And L.K. Tripathi ED, Position and status of women in ancient India, Varanasi, Banaras in the University, pages 235-47. Sarkar DC, 1973. The Shakta Peethas, Delhi, Motilal Banarsi Das. Spencer George W., 1983. When Queens bore gifts, women as temple donors in the Chola period. In K.V. Raman et al. eds. Srinidhi, Perspectives in Indian Archaeology, Art and Culture. Shri K.R. Srinivasan, Fets Stripped, Madras, New Era Publications, pages 361-73. Srivatsa M.C.P., 1979. Mother Goddess in Indian Art, Archaeology and Literature, Delhi, Agam Kala Prakashan. Talbot Cynthia, 1991. Temples, Donors and Gifts, Patterns of Patronage in 13th Century South India. Journal of Asian Studies, 50 colon 308-40. Talim Meena, 1972. Women in Early Buddhism, Bombay, University of Bombay. Tiwari J.N., 1985. Goddess Cult in Ancient India, with special reference to the first 7 centuries AD. Energy and Symbolism in the Buddhist Tantras. I repeat. Tiwari J.N., 1985. Goddess Cults in Ancient India, bracket, with special reference to the first 7 centuries AD, bracket close, Delhi, Sandeep Prakashan. Wayman Alex, 1962-3. Female Energy and Symbolism in the Buddhist Tantras, History of Religions 2:73-111. Women, Alex and Hideko Wayman, 1974. The Lion's Roar of Queen Shrimala, New York and London, Columbia University Press. Weigle, Weigle, Weigel Marta, 1962. Spiders and Spinsters, Women and Mythology, Albuquerque, University of New Mexico Press. Witherington III, Ben, 1980. 1988. Women in the Earliest Churches, Cambridge, Cambridge University Press. Page 336 blank. Page 337, contributors. A.S. Altekar was director, K.P. Jayasabal Research Institute, Patna. Sukumari Bhattacharjee is retired professor of Sanskrit, Jadavpur University, Calcutta. N.N. Bhattacharya is retired professor, Department of Ancient Indian History and Culture, Calcutta University. Usha Chakraborty teaches history at Miranda House, Delhi University, Delhi. Chitrarekha Gupta is professor, Department of Archaeology, Calcutta University. George L. Hart III is professor of Tamil and holder of the chair in Tamil Studies, University of California, Berkeley, USA. I.B. Hona was librarian, Newnham College, Cambridge, and was associated with the Pali Text Society. D.D. Kosambi was a Marxist historian, Indologist, and mathematician. Kanakalata Mukund is affiliated to the Center for Economic and Social Studies, Hyderabad. Vijaya Ramaswamy is reader, Department of History, Gargi College, Delhi University, Delhi. Harihar Singh is professor, Department of Ancient Indian History and Culture, Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi. Sarvadaman Singh is retired professor, Department of History, University of Queensland, Brisbane, Australia. Reading of the book ends here.